Hello everyone, you're listening to Alternative Revelations with Linda Emanuel. And this is podcast number 62, probably the most important and informative and educational podcast I will ever do regarding the 5G and what the 5G will do when it is unleashed on America and the world. And before I get started, I have to read this disclaimer that I am not a doctor, nor am I a medical practitioner. Therefore, I cannot give medical advice, and these podcasts are for informational purposes only. And with that said and done, I can begin the podcast. I have just come across some information passed on to me by Sheila. And the information Sheila passed on to me was a video by a woman named Dana on YouTube. And I definitely suggest that you watch this YouTube by Dana, and I will leave the link to the YouTube video in the description of this podcast. And everything I'm going to tell you tonight is going to make logical sense. Now, Dana came up upon the real logic behind the 5G, and she mentions the coronavirus too. And what's going on is the 5G frequency causes the atoms connecting the oxygen together to start spinning. And this does not allow the hemoglobin on your red blood cells to carry oxygen to the body. So again, the 5G causes the atoms which attach oxygen together, and the frequency causes them to start spinning. And this does not allow the hemoglobin on your red blood cells to carry oxygen to your cells. And then what happens when the cells do not receive oxygen? Remember, oxygen are waste hall carriers. They carry off carbon and hydrogen. And when your body does not have access to oxygen, the cells cannot make energy. And this is why people in Wuhan were passing out, were falling on the streets, because they were one of the model cities to begin the 5G technology. And the 5G electromagnetic waves were keeping their hemoglobin from picking up oxygen. And this could also lead to an activation of a Mycoplasma infection. And this is how and why. And I'm going to tell you what is going to be the consequences of the 5G and the 5G making oxygen molecules unable to be carried by the hemoglobin. And this all goes back to mycoplasma. And again, mycoplasma is anaerobic. It lives in a non-oxygen environment. And one of the things that activates mycoplasma is when your body has low oxygen, and it will activate. Just think about like when you go up to high altitude, there is less oxygen and people experience altitude sickness. This is a mycoplasma infection activating. And this is exactly what's going to happen when the 5G kicks in. There will be less oxygen in people's bodies, and therefore, if they have mycoplasma in their bodies, this will activate a mycoplasma infection. And depending where somebody is genetically weak, this is where they will be first attacked. Or if they have damaged tissue, such as, like, let's say they were a plumber and they were smelling the plumber glue and this poisoned their brains, they will get something like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. Or in the case of somebody who smoked cigarettes, their lungs are damaged, the mycoplasma will attack damaged lung tissue. And then lastly, if you currently have a mycoplasma infection, this will make the mycoplasma more aggressive, and also other pathogens may kick in if your immune system is weak. So I have left the link for Dana's video to watch about the 5G and what it does to make the atoms connecting the oxygen together to make O2. It makes these atoms spin, which does not allow the hemoglobin to attach to the oxygen and carry the oxygen to your cells. And this could be detrimental. All your organs need oxygen. You would probably have symptoms of congestive heart failure or anemia. So I've got other information to pass on. When Spirit told me that they were going to put the coronavirus in the chemtrails, because of the bombardment all over the earth of weather wars, rain and snow, the elite changed their plans. They did not put the coronavirus in the chemtrails. Now, about the economic crash, this is still going to happen. It might have slowed down, but Spirit warned me several months ago that this was going to happen, and it is going to be government made. It's not going to be a natural economic crash. They are going to crash it. And every stock market crash has been orchestrated. It's a joke. So again, there's going to be food shortages this year because right now they're bombarding rain on the Midwest, and the farmers are not going to be able to plant crops in soaking wet fields along with the southern part of the United States. And also all the rain and the snow hitting British Columbia, this is going to be detrimental on the state of California. And I'm also going to leave a link to Mike Morales' YouTube channel. He has a great show every night showing you all the different weather wars going on around the world in Europe and America, Australia. It is most interesting. I really recommend that you watch his YouTube on weather wars. That's where I get a lot of my information. So now about this vaccine they're going to make everybody get. I have no idea what is going to be in the vaccine, but everybody knows by now that vaccines are not good for you with the aluminum and other toxins. The aluminum causes the electrical charge of your blood to change and the red blood cells clump together. And the news, it sounds like they're going to force people to get a vaccine, and Spirit tells me the only way to avoid being forced to get a vaccine is to go back to the land. And I have mentioned in another podcast, be aware, prepare, and be safe, that you can give up your United States of America Incorporated slavery citizenship and go back to the land, and they no longer have jurisdiction over you. And also, when you fill out that birth certificate for your children, you in fact turn them over as wards to the state, and they can take your children away from you. I strongly suggest you visit Anna von Reitz's website and learn all about how to get back your freedom from being a slave under corpus jurisdiction under the Vatican and the English Crown. And also visit the AmericanStatesAssemblies.net to learn how to fill out your paperwork. I am filling out my paperwork right now. Actually, it is done. I just have to get it notarized and recorded at a county recorder of deeds. Now, getting back to the food shortage, the elite, or the powers that be, have been culling animals all over the world, small animals, and this is logical that they are going to destroy any food sources. So I have some suggestions to have on hand to store food. One of the best sources for food are hemp seeds, and you can get them. I'll leave the link on my podcast where to buy hemp seed. You can survive on hemp seed. I also, for my own self, I got powdered coconut milk so I can make smoothies with the hemp seed. And I will put all these links on my podcast description. And I will also be posting an article on my website on plants you can grow that grow wild in your yard that are edible and nutritious. I also suggest that you learn how to sprout seeds. You can buy broccoli seeds on Amazon. They're not very expensive. And I'd like to also mention that Dana has come up with ways to protect yourself from the 5G. She has some videos on it I have watched. And supposedly metal screens that you put on your window block out the 5G. Also, water blocks out the 5G, and rain. So to sum it all up, there will be a food shortage this year in certain parts of the country, especially in the Midwest. Our ground will be too wet for farmers to plant their crops this spring. Also, maybe in the South, the southern states have been bombarded by rain. California is in dire straits with all that snow and rain above them to the north of them in British Columbia. This is going to be a most interesting year, but we can survive it if you prepare and be safe by stocking up some food. And also, I'm going to correct a previous podcast about electroportation. I have now learned that I should verify everything through spirit, but it sounded too good to be true. But electroportation is false. There is no such thing as electroportation. The original article of electroportation, the person just had misinformation. That person is not a shill. And one last point, these cruise ships, Dana mentions them, that these cruise ships that are being quarantined, they have 5G technology on them. And she does not talk about mycoplasma, but it makes common sense that the people on these cruise ships who are being quarantined on these ships are being bombarded by the 5G frequency. And therefore, if they have mycoplasma infections or have mycoplasma in their body, this is activating the mycoplasma, are making it more aggressive. That is why these people are getting sick. So in conclusion, this is probably one of the most important podcasts I've ever done. The truth about the 5G frequency, what is really going on with the coronavirus, that it is probably it probably really is a virus, but really what's going on behind the scene is the 5G is activating mycoplasma infections. And again, mycoplasma is the controller's best way to transmit disease. They can put a virus in a mycoplasma and make it more lethal. Mycoplasma is a stealth-like organism. It can remain in your body dormant until activated, and low oxygen levels in your body will activate it or make it more aggressive. So, until next time, good night and God bless.